George Bernard Shaw once said, and we quote, "There is no sincerer love than the love for food." Well, obviously, who doesn't love food? But imagine being on death row and you're asked about the last meal of your choice. What would you choose to eat? It's a weird question, though. Like, who would care about food if you're about to die? Multiple countries where the law legalizes the death penalty, the prisoner with the death sentences are offered a special last meal of their choice. Let's just say it's a tradition. Now, this seems a bit strange, but it's kind of a last comforting gesture towards the prisoners who've been living in prison for years and are finally about to face execution. Usually, nobody gets to choose, obviously. It is a prison after all. Most likely, when death is around the corner, they lose their appetite. While some prisoners find this custom absurd, then there are those who requested the strangest last meal. Sounds pretty bizarre, right? Wait till you see the list we've gathered. The 10 strangest last meal requests on death row. So keep watching. Number 10. Ted Bundy. If you've watched in the movies how serial killers are practically on the next level of weirdness and dangerous, one of our top 10 is an actual serial killer. 43-year-old Ted Bundy was America's most renowned serial killer of all time. He was convicted of necrophilia, rape, mass murder, and prison escape, and was so sentenced to death by electric shock. Ouch. Before his death, he declined to have any special meal, so he was just given the usual one that had medium rare cooked steak, toast with butter and jelly, juice, eggs, milk, and hash browns. A very normal meal for a not-so-normal person. Number 9. Ricky Ray Rector. Ricky Ray Rector, age 42, was sentenced to death by lethal injection in Arkansas. He was convicted of 2 murders, and for his last meal, he asked for fried chicken, pecan pie, steak, and cherry Kool-Aid. After he was done eating, he left the pecan pie on the side of the tray and told the correction officer that he was saving it for later. He was taken to the execution room, and the slice of pie wasn't disposed of until he was executed. Too bad he didn't have the chance to finish that pie. Number 8. Victor Harry Figuer. Among all of the entire weird last meal requests, Victor Harry Figuer's last meal remains the strangest. 28-year-old Victor was found guilty of kidnap and murder and was sentenced to death by the federal court in 1963. An appeal was filed by Victor, which was denied by the court. John F. Kennedy was the president at the time, and only he held the power of commuting death sentences. So, Victor's attorney and the governor of Iowa at that time, Harold Hughes, who was also a death penalty opponent, requested Kennedy for leniency, but the crime was so brutal that Kennedy denied the appeal. Victor Figuer was the United States' last federal inmate who was executed before the Furman versus Georgia criminal case in which the Supreme Court of the United States struck down all death penalties. Until 40 years later, the federal execution of Timothy McVeigh, responsible for the Oklahoma City bombing. Victor was executed by hanging at the age of 28, and for his last meal, he requested a single olive with its pit. The pit was later found in his pocket after the execution. According to popular belief, his purpose was to be buried along with the olive pit so that an olive tree would grow from his grave, symbolizing peace. Real touchy for a criminal. The photographer Henry Hargraves captured the haunting images of his last meal of inmates on death row in his No Seconds series. According to him, food preferences say a lot about a person. He said that it is just if one thinks about his last meal, it'll be greedy, but all he asked for was a single olive. It looks like a full stop on life. Number 7. Timothy McVeigh. The terrorist behind the Oklahoma City bombing was Timothy McVeigh. He killed 168 people and 680 were seriously wounded. It was considered to be one of the deadliest terrorist attacks in the history of the United States before 9/11, and also the most deadly domestic terror attack to this day. He was convicted of 168 counts of murder and was sentenced to death by lethal injection. He died at the age of 33 in Indiana. He was given 2 pints of mint chocolate chip ice cream as his last meal request. That's cold, like his heart probably. Number 6. Robert Alton Harris. Robert Alton Harris was charged and convicted of the murders of 2 teenage boys in San Diego in 1978. In 1992, he was sentenced to death by gas chamber. Since 1967, his execution was considered to be the first in California. He demanded 2 large Domino's pizzas, a bag of jelly beans, a 21-piece bucket of Kentucky Fried Chicken, a 6-pack of Pepsi, and a pack of Camel cigarettes. You might be wondering what's so special about his case. His execution was remembered especially for the last words he spoke before his death. "You can be a king or a street sweeper, but everybody dances with the Grim Reaper." This line is basically from a movie released in 1991, Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey. Number 5, Ronnie Lee Gardner. Ronnie Lee Gardner was convicted for murder in 1985 and received the death penalty for it. He was executed in 2010 by a firing squad in Utah. According to Gardner's attorney, he did not want to cause any attention and wanted to die like this. His words were, "I would prefer to die of old age, your owner, but that is not possible. I will take the firing squad." Gardner's last meal was a steak, a lobster tail, vanilla ice cream, and apple pie. He also demanded to watch the trilogy of Lord of the Rings while eating his last meal. Number 4, John Wayne Gacy. All of us at one time in their life went to see a circus and saw a clown. But this clown is not just any funny, laughing, cracking jokes clown. He is seriously messed up. Ladies and gentlemen, we introduce you to John Wayne Gacy, a serial killer, or as you can see, the killer clown who was convicted for rape and 33 counts of murder. He was sentenced to death by lethal injection at the age of 52 in Illinois. Gacy's last meal request was 12 fried shrimp, French fries, a bucket of original recipe Kentucky Fried Chicken, and a pound of strawberries. Want to know a fun fact about Gacy? Before he was apprehended, he managed 3 outlets of KFC. Not much fun, is it? We love KFC, but I think I just lost my appetite. Number 3, Stephen Michael Woods Jr. Stephen Woods was convicted and sentenced to death after a jury indicted him for the capital homicides of a drug dealer and his better half. While his time in jail, Woods was battling for prisoner rights in the year 2004. In late 2006, Woods was a piece of yearning strike in Pulaski to restrict death row detainees' treatment. The decency of Woods' case and discipline was profoundly scrutinized by American rationalist, intellectual researcher, antiquarian, and political dissident Noam Chomsky and Human Rights Bunch Amnesty International. Woods' criminal case was accounted for locally and globally. His last movement for a stay was denied on September 2, 2011. After 11 days, he was executed by deadly infusion. He requested a crazy meal, which was 4 large meat pizzas, 2 drinks each of Mountain Dew, 2 pounds of bacon, 4 fried chicken breasts, 2 pints of ice cream, Pepsi, root beer, and sweet tea, 5 chicken fried steaks, 2 hamburgers with bacon, fries, a dozen garlic breadsticks with marinara on the side. Number 2, Ronnie Threadgill. Ronnie Threadgill was executed in Texas by deadly infusion at the age of 40. He was condemned to death for 3 homicides. For his last feast, Threadgill wanted baked chicken, mashed potatoes with country gravy, vegetables, sweet peas, bread, tea, water, and punch. Now that's a meal. Be that as it may, Texas canceled last feast decision in 2011. Too bad. So Threadgill was simply given a similar dinner to every other person in his unit. That would have felt like having the whole river to drink, but you drink it from a cup that has a hole in it. Savage. Number 1, Angel Nieves Diaz. Angel Nieves Diaz was condemned to death for armed robbery, kidnapping, and homicide. He was convicted of shooting and killing a strip club manager in 1979. He was executed at the age of 55 by lethal injection in Florida, although he maintained his innocence till his death. As for his last meal, he didn't make any requests and was offered a regular prison meal, which he refused to eat. Diaz was given a lethal dose of IV catheters straightly pushed through his veins on both arms by the execution team. However, this injection was considered one of the worst botch jobs since it was introduced in the States during the 1980s. Generally, the induced drug takes 10 to 15 minutes, initially causing dizziness, sleep, then slow death. That's why it was used by the states in order to give the prisoner an easy death. But in Diaz's case, it took 34 minutes and was quite painful. But hey, that's what death penalties are for, right? That's the end of our list. If you want us to add any pictures or video related to any weird incidents, send them to us and we might feature them in our next video. For now, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel for more amazing videos. Also, ring the notification bell for latest video alerts. Hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching.